And, you know, it's not like I'm a 20-year-old, you know, nubile porn star. They just like the idea, oh, porn, film porn, a porn star, can I have sex with you? Mum and Dad are both Slovenian, so I'm a first-generation Australian. They're very conservative, strict upbringing, particularly for a daughter. Different rules for the daughter as there were to my brother. I was always a bit of a loner and very shy. I realised the expectations of me were to be a good daughter, a good wife, a good mother, whatever you want to describe that as, but that's, you know, that was basically my future mapped out, was to get married and have children.
And you did do that?
I did do that. I had my first child at 31 and my second child at 37. So I fulfilled.
You fulfilled the expectation?
My side of the bargain, yes.
And how did you find it? Was it fulfilling you?
Look, I found it fulfilling, but I found that a lot of me was lost. I felt like part of my life was taken away from me. Once I had the children, my needs were set aside because I had to raise the children. I reached a point where I fell into major depression and I felt lonely and alone. I would have these psychotic breaks where I'd run around screaming like a banshee, wanting to kill myself, because I felt like there was no joy, no pleasure in life, that there was nothing worth living for. Even though people would say, look, you've got these beautiful children, this beautiful home. I had all the markings of a successful life, yet I still felt like life wasn't worth living and there was nothing anyone could say.
And when did you realise you had to change something?
When I turned 45 and asked for a divorce. 2 years after I asked for a divorce, I was in a major depression. I was lonely and alone. I just didn't feel life was worth living, but I really wanted to experience sex and intimacy before I died, because at that point I was about to turn 47 and I had been celibate for 12 years. Yep. And I didn't have the confidence to go out and meet someone in the usual way by going to a bar or club. So after a lot of consideration, I decided the best option for me was to hire an escort. So for my 47th birthday, I booked an escort for an overnight stay. I booked a beautiful suite at the Shangri-La, a lovely restaurant, theatre tickets to see Richard III, that starred Kevin Spacey. So I actually planned a date. I wanted it to be perfect because then I was going to go back home and I wanted to commit suicide. But I wanted that experience, a big last hurrah.
Wow.
But the experience with the escort was life-changing. It was more than just about the sex.
Yeah.
The sex was wonderful, don't get me wrong, but
evidently.
But you know, my beautiful moment was when we were at the theatre, and out of nowhere he just reached over and held my hand, and you know, my little heart just raced, and I felt like a little teenager again. I then decided, hell, I want more of this. I found this article running a competition for first-time filmmakers of erotic film, and I jokingly said to him, oh, I've got an idea for a film and it will star you and I, and it will be about me preparing myself to have my first date with him.
Okay.
And I thought, you know, what harm can it be to enter this competition, you know?
And was he okay with the idea of...
Yes.
Right, because you'd imagine some people might not necessarily want their identity shown.
No, so we both starred in it. So we shot this little film and we sent it off on the last day of the deadline.
As everyone does.
And you think, what the hell, you know? No. It won first prize.
Wow.
And Petra Joy, she's a German filmmaker based in the UK, she said, would you consider making more?
And just like that, you became a porn star.
Basically, yes, just like that.
not just having sex. She's not just doing, you know, some act that maybe you'd like to try someday. She's putting out that journey. Like you see her go from A to Z in the whole scene, and it's like watching somebody unravel and come alive. And I think it's quite. I think for a lot of people it really resonates. So I'm going to show you our office. This is the Permission for Pleasure office. It's where all the magic happens. And this is where we like to bathe in our own glory.
Of course.
This is our award shelf.
Josie and I have recently won 2 awards at the Toronto International Porn Film Festival.
Which we like to cradle sometimes when we're feeling down about ourselves.
Fair enough.
Best fetish film, which was that cake.
Cake one?
Yes.
Then we also have the Heartthrob of the Year award, which is from the Feminist Porn Awards 2015.
The Heartthrob of the Year at age 50.
Like the biggest shock.
Great times, great memories.
Who watches the porn that you and Morgana make? Where's the majority of the audience?
It's been interesting because Morgana's whole point originally was kind of targeting kind of a 40+ market. And I think that's what we presumed was the case. And then we started traveling around with these films, and we also started getting Google Analytics, which is very interesting. And it turns out it's a really broad spectrum of people. I think our biggest demographic is like the 21 to 35s. You know, after every screening, there's people who feel compelled to come up and just tell her like quite intimate things about themselves. There are people everywhere who I think need this, or need to see this, or need to know that there are other people like this going through these things.
So in terms of how you actually make the porn, we're here in Victoria. You can't make porn here, can you?
No, it's a super grey, super uncomfortable area, I think, for the industry. So for us, most of the time we shoot in Europe, and then we just bring all the footage home and edit it and then put it on international servers, which is how we circumvent the whole awkward grey area.
I always like to have a beautiful set, and it's very important for me that the performers have a wonderful time. And lube, use plenty of lube.
Some of this process has been about exploring your own boundaries and what works for you. So what have you discovered about yourself as you've gone through and tested each of these boundaries?
I've discovered that I still want more.
You have 2 daughters.
Yes, I do.
How does the conversation go when you explain that mum's now a porn star?
Well, I remember my eldest, I wanted to break it gently to her, and I said I'm going to be making certain films, and she just looked at me. I looked away, and then she had 3 questions for me. The first one was, "Mummy, will you make money?" And I said, "Well, I hope so." The second question was, "Are you happy?" And I said, "Yes." And thirdly, she said, "Just don't tell me the details." You know, quite frankly, I can relate to that because I used to be grossed out by my parents, okay?
Yeah. And how about your parents? How did they react?
Not so well. My mother essentially said, "You're no longer, you know, I'm a disgrace."
On the off chance that she watches this, what would you like her to know about your life now?
I would like her to know that I'm happy, I'm still the same person. I'm still her daughter, I'm still a mother, I'm still all those things, but I'm also me.
Thanks so much, Joy.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Pleasure was entirely mine.
Thank you.